In this last section, we're going to go through administrative type items and working with the PTCS registry. So in this section, we're going to go through some of the basics to the technician certifications. We're going to go into entering a job into the PTCS registry, and we're going to kind of showcase the mobile device entry that was brand new starting last year. And we're going to talk a little bit about documentation and utility follow-up once the job is complete. Touch on what the quality assurance inspections entail, and wrap up with some program resources. So certification need-to-knows. It's always a good idea just to keep track and check the certifications that your technicians have at your company. Since the PTCS program has a variety of different measures, we have a couple of different certification types. So just because a technician has an air source heat pump certification doesn't mean they can go do duct sealing projects or vice versa. So definitely good to keep track of which technicians you have that have the certifications and which ones they need to actually do the work on the job, because if you're installing a heat pump, you may be doing duct sealing at that same house, so that particular technician might need to have both certifications. And with the heat pump measure, the actual certified technician must be on site and must commission and test the equipment. And currently there is no requirement to regularly renew the certification. Once a technician is certified, that certification stays with them through their career. But at some point we may start requiring some sort of continuing education to maintain certification in the program. So stay tuned for more details on that. And one important aspect is the certification will follow the technician to any company they go to, because the certification is based on that technician's name and it's not certifying the company. So if you had one technician or a couple technicians certified and they moved on to a different employer or to a different industry, you'll have to recertify another technician in order to continue to offer PTCS installations. If you have someone in the office like a sales staff or the owner of the company that doesn't get out in the field that much, but they have a PTCS technician certification from years ago, that's fine, but we just need to make sure that they actually are the ones there commissioning and testing the system in the interim until another field tech has been trained. And if any folks need extra technicians to be trained, stay tuned on our website or reach out to the program. We'll provide all that information towards the end of the webinar. And you can reach out to us and request any trainings and see what we have on the calendar. So once the technician is certified, that's just kind of the starting point to submitting a job to a utility. And kind of where we're going to come in here with this webinar is talking about entering a job into the online registry. This would be after the equipment was installed and everything met the specifications. Now you're actually ready to submit that job onto the registry and to the utility and apply for the incentive. So there's currently two options for entering a job into the registry. The brand new option, which we'll kind of showcase here, is the mobile device entry, usually while the technician is on site. This was brand new in 2018, and the beauty of it is if the technician is there on site, they're doing their testing and commissioning, they can go ahead and enter all those details directly into the registry and save it. And it could eliminate the need for the paper installation forms that we've always used. The other option that's been used for quite some time now is just entering the data remote or off-site and entering it into a desktop computer, for example. This could be done by an administrative staff on behalf of the technician or actually entered in by the technician. But if you're going to be entering in the data after you've left the job site, then you have to record all that information somehow, and typically you're just going to have to use the paper installation form in order to keep all that straight. But one important note to remember here is that whether you're entering it in on your mobile phone while you're on site or you're entering it in back at the office, each utility might have a specific requirement whether or not you fill out the paper installation form, because some utilities are still requiring that paper form. So definitely make sure you figure out what method your utility requires so you aren't missing those. And there's a link to the BPA registry there. So a little bit more on the mobile device entry. It's not an app you have to download. The online registry has been optimized to use on any mobile device, a tablet or a phone. And it's nice because you can enter in a job and you can save the progress and then get back on there later if you need to. So this is kind of nice in the morning. If you were waiting a few minutes before your first appointment started, you could go ahead and enter in the site address and some of the home's info into the registry and go ahead and save and create that job. And then when you're there doing the commissioning, you can go in and record all your flows and temp split numbers, and a lot of that other data entry was already taken care of. Keep in mind that if you are inactive for 4 hours, it's automatically going to time you out, so it's going to be a good idea to go ahead and just save if for some reason you're not going to be able to complete that job. And it's very self-explanatory. There's little info bubbles that pop up as you go through, and it's going to explain what all the fields are and what it requires, so they've made it very easy. There are a few limitations though. You have to be online to use the mobile entry. This could be Wi-Fi or just some sort of cellular data signal. Both of them work just fine. If for some reason you have no cell signal at the house or you can't connect to the homeowner's Wi-Fi and you need to enter the job into the registry at a later time, you might want to just have some installation forms on hand so you can go ahead and record all your test data and enter that in later. We're not going to get into a lot of details here. I just want to show this for everybody. BPA created a test site that a technician and an admin could get on and actually see how the mobile device entry works and just practice around with it a little bit. There's a link there to how to get on the BPA test site. It's just a test environment. Nothing will be published live. You're not creating any real sites. It's just made for practice. You do have to sign in using those couple of credentials there. You have to use that username, test contractor. Make sure you use the capital T and the capital C. And then there's the password. And there's a couple of screenshots there on the left. You can click on, once you get on the test environment, you click log in, and it'll bring up your login box, and you just need to punch in the two login credentials, and that'll get you in there. And if you're just running a test, you still have to use real values, or the registry will say, hey, this is not a real site, or no, this is not a flow, an airflow that falls into range with what is programmed into the website. So what we did is we just provided some sample data here for you to use if you're messing around with this later on. So just use any physical address that pops up on Google Maps or any other mapping software. And you could use this example AHRI number, and then we provide true float plate numbers and temp split numbers and that sort of thing. And this will just get you through to enter in a whole job in the test environment so you can see, how it works and test the full function of it. And this prevents you from having to fumble around with it when you're out on the job site or your technicians out there, you know, when they're focusing on the task at hand, and they've already figured this out before they even went out to the job. And there's another screenshot there at the bottom. It kind of shows you how to actually start entering the job. You click on enter a project, or on the right side you can click on contractors, the little drop down. It'll open up a menu and you can hit enter a job. You can get in there either way. And the computer entry off-site is still available too. We don't have a test environment for this, but this is just a real high-level overview of how you enter a job into the registry. You know, there's a link to the PTCS registry. You go and click on enter a project or hover over contractors and hit enter a job. And from there, it's going to walk you through a lot of fields that you need to fill out. You're going to need to enter the address, all the site details, what measure type you're applying for, and any install details, all your testing numbers. And if you want a real step-by-step guide on how to enter a job into the registry, we have a really in-depth PowerPoint on the PTCS website that walks you through every single screen and field. And there's a link there for it. And this is a good way if you have a new staff coming on board, you know, to give them a real crash course on how the registry works and how to enter a project. So there's a couple of documents that I want to go over here. One is called the Registry Installation Report. And this report can be found on the PTCS website. And to access it, you need to sign in to the technician's account that job was entered through. And you can go in and search for that particular job. And it'll bring up that site address, and it'll bring up the site ID for that home, or the measure ID. And you can click on it, and it'll generate this registry installation report. And basically what this is it's a printout from the registry of all the items that were entered in the registry for that particular site. So it's a good summary of all your test numbers, the site address, and any other info specific to that job. And it's going to cover almost everything that was in the paper installation form. So if for some reason you aren't using the paper installation form and you're using the mobile device entry while on site, this is a document that you can go in and actually create in the registry and print out that summarizes this job. And the reason I'm showing you this is because some utilities may require you to submit this registry installation report to them as part of your documentation requirements. It's very easy. It's just a couple clicks of the mouse because all the data is in there from when you entered it in to the registry from the get-go. And here is the actual paper installation form that most techs are filling out while on site. And I'm showing you this because this installation form may still be required by some utilities, so we can't just forget about this one altogether. So you can access new versions of this document on the registry. It's pretty easy to find. And print these out, have them with you. But it's definitely going to be a good idea to figure out what method your utility requires. Say if you're definitely going to go ahead with the on-site mobile entry, definitely figure out if your utility is still going to require you to have this form, or they're going to let you just submit the registry installation report. You may encounter some issues with data entry into the registry from time to time. So reach out to the PTCS team if you have any issues, and so we can reach out and help troubleshoot these for you. Some of the common issues that we run into, one is the address isn't validating for some reason. Maybe it's a new address, or maybe it's just not mapped out. We can help you with that. Maybe you enter in a valid AHRI number, but it's just not finding it into the registry, we can help you out there, because the registry is actually connected with the AHRI database. So all that AHRI data gets imported into the registry. And so for some reason the registry isn't finding that installation, we can help remedy that for you. If the home has 2 heat pumps, for example, sometimes the registry gets tripped up thinking you're trying to enter in the job twice, but our administrative staff can make an adjustment in the background so you can enter in 2 systems, so just reach out to us for that. If you entered a job and you saved it, but you just can't find it anymore, reach out to us and we can see if we can find that for you. If you entered in some job data and you realized you made a mistake or you messed up a site address, kind of reversed the data for some reason, and you've already submitted it and it's kind of locked down, you'll have to reach out to us to unlock it for you. And most of the time when you enter in a job into the registry and all the data is correct and the registry kind of does an auto check on it, it'll send it straight through as an approved project. But sometimes there's some data entry that's just kind of out of the range of what the normal value should be. It'll still let you submit the job, but it'll send to what is called a pending status. And when jobs are in that pending status, PTCS staff review those pretty regularly to figure out, maybe what's going on with the data and if there's something else that's needed from the contractor. And we do that every few days or so. But if there's a job that's a real urgent measure and you need to go ahead and submit to the utility right away and it's in that pending status, you can call us and we can get on there and go ahead and figure out what's holding it up and go ahead and push that through as an approved project. And we put the best contact phone number there and a good email if you'd rather just email us. So some of the documentation requirements that your utility may ask for with a heat pump measure. One could be that registry installation report, or they may require that paper installation reform. The AHRI certificate that's generated from the AHR website might be required, showing that it's an AHRI match. A lot of utilities are going to have incentive applications. Those might need some signatures and that sort of thing. And Mark mentioned the sizing documentation. We need, the heat load of the home and the balance point worksheet. And then typically utilities are going to require some sort of equipment or contractor invoice. And at the bottom there, that's just a screenshot of the PTCS sizing calculator that Mark was talking about. So a utility might not require every single one of these, but they're going to require a majority of them. So it's definitely going to be good to reach out and know exactly what they want. Because if you can submit all the documents and they're all correct, then that just expedites the payment on that incentive. But if something is missing, it just kind of gets held up in the system. It's just going to take a little bit longer for that one to get approved. So definitely having everything all dialed in is going to speed up the whole incentive payment process. So kind of reiterating the specific heat pump sizing documentation. We're going to need both the heat load, heat loss calculation of the house and the balance point worksheet. Or if you're using the PTCS heat pump sizing calculator, that Excel document, that one actually has the heat load of the house and the balance point. So you're not going to have 2 separate pieces of information to turn in if you're going that avenue. So depending on what method you use to calculate the sizing of the system, you have what you need here. And if you do want to access that calculator, it's on the website, and I'll show you a little bit more later on how to access all these resources. So once the job is complete in the field and it's been entered into the registry, there's still another step or two. You need to notify the utility that that job has actually been completed. This can either be done by the technician or the administrative staff. And it's just a heads up that, hey, this job is in the registry, because the utility's not going to get an auto notification telling them that a particular contractor uploaded a new job into the registry. And so they need to be alerted that it's there. And that can be done in several ways, and that's another reason of figuring out the best way your utility would like you to do that, because you're going to usually be submitting any other documents to the utility. And so notifying the utility that the job is complete may be a fax or maybe an email or something with all the documents from that particular job, and that's a good way of notifying them. But reach out to your utility, and keep in mind too that some utilities don't process all these applications in-house. Sometimes they have a third-party company that handles all of their incentive processing, so your normal contact to the utility might not have that much transparency into the whole incentive processing side of things. So that's just another good way, or another good reason, just to figure out how the process works, so you can go ahead and get these jobs in and go ahead and get these incentives paid as quickly as possible. And then once they're notified, the utility can then hop on the registry and see a lot of details from that job too, along with all the documents that you submit to them.
We have a handful of quality assurance inspectors around the region, and we inspect at least 10% of all jobs that come through the program. With new technicians, we try to inspect the first 3 installations that they have, just to make sure that they know that they understand all the specifications correctly. And once the job is submitted and inspected, the contractor will actually get a summary letter of everything that was found in the job, whether it was a stellar performance of installation or whether the job needed corrections. That all gets summarized and sent to the contractor, itemizing anything that may need to be addressed or fixed. And the timeline, or the time frame that is getting into getting those items corrected. And if we have a technician that has multiple inspections that require return visits, we do have a technician support plan to help the technician walk through the commissioning procedures, and just to get them back on good footing with the program, and so that installations meet the specifications. We also are performing inspections using video calls, phones, photos, or other means to confirm that the installation specifications have been met. These inspections are beneficial in a way that any issue can be identified and fixed at the time of installation, instead of needing to send someone back to the job and disturbing the homeowner months after the installation. We also require that newly trained PTCS technician informs the program when they are commissioning their first 3 systems, and that they will be available for remote inspections at the time of that commissioning.
Here is a link to the program website you can access right there. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to navigate and find what you need quickly. Here's some examples of the information you can find on there. There's all the specifications for all the different measures. There are any other specific program requirements. There's a lot of technical and training resources, like that temperature split table that Mark was mentioning earlier. That information's all on there. There are other online registry resources. One of them was that how to enter a job into the registry slide deck I was talking about earlier on. That's on there. And there's going to be a link to get any marketing materials that we have. We're going to be talking about that here more in a second. If you need a new version of the installation form, that's available there. And then we have thermostat support sheets that walk technicians through how to access the installer settings on about 19 different thermostats on the market. And it also tells the technician, how to access where you set and check the strip heat lockout settings and the compressor lockout settings, and any test modes that might be available that'll help the technician during their testing. And that's typically the process that we follow during our quality assurance inspections too. So it kind of lets you know what our QA inspectors are going to be looking at and testing on the system through the thermostat. And those are all available there on the website too. So some of the marketing material that's available is on the website. It's free and some of it's customizable. There is a link there to access it. And there's some just general PTCS marketing material, just the general PTCS logo if you'd like, or a program poster if you were at a home show or something, for example. But then there's some specific materials to each of the different measures. And for air source heat pumps, there's going to be specific material for ads, a bill stuffer, a homeowner brochure, a postcard. And then if you want a web banner for your website, that's available there too. And all that's free and downloadable on that link. Mark mentioned equipment discounts. If you need to purchase an extra set of flow plates or you need a new manometer, we do have a discount worked out with the Energy Conservatory and TrueTech tools. So you can get 12.5% off of manometers and TrueFlow plates to the Energy Conservatory, or an 8% discount from TrueTech tools on testing equipment that would be used for testing and commissioning heat pump systems. You can't just get on their website and try to order this and punch in a coupon code. It's not that simple. You need to reach out to Eli Caudill, the program manager for the PTCS program at ClearResult. And there's his email there. Shoot him an email and he'll send you a form and help facilitate the payment and getting you the discount on that equipment. And there is also equipments on duct testing equipment too, if you're interested in purchasing any of that from the Energy Conservatory. So it's a great idea to stay informed with the program, and we've made this really easy on you because some companies might run a job through the program pretty infrequently, and there might be a pretty big gap in between PTCS jobs. And so program specifications or forms, something may have changed in the last 4 or 5 months that you've installed a job. So instead of having to go check all that manually on the website, if you sign up for the PTCS quarterly newsletter, it kind of gives you any vital program updates kind of in a nutshell. It's just a quarterly newsletter. We won't bog you down with a ton of unnecessary information, and we won't sell your information so you'll start getting spam or anything of that nature. So a lot of the items that we put in the newsletter, there'll be new and updated specifications, any changes to the registry, any common QA issues we're finding in the field, any program requirements that are updated, any new technical support materials, for example, some new thermostat support sheets that we just released. They were, we had a notification in the newsletter about that. And then we try to come up with just some good tips and tricks that are relevant to the season that you might be installing heat pumps in. So definitely a good way. And if you, for some reason, it's been a while since you installed a system, you could just go in and search your email inbox for the newsletter and just flip through the last 2 or 3 newsletters, and that should give you a pretty good snapshot of what's happened with the program over the last 9 months or year or so. So it's definitely tries to streamline it for you as much as possible. So there is a link there in order to go sign up, or you could just shoot us an email and we'll get you on the mailing list. And we do have Spanish translations of a lot of the materials now. The technician training slide decks that we use during our technician trainings, all those have been translated now. We have a training manual that we provide all the technicians when they come to the technician trainings. That's all in Spanish now. All the tests are in Spanish that the technicians take in order to complete their certification. And then the paper installation form is also available in Spanish. So if any of these materials would be beneficial to your company, Eli or email Eli Caldill, and he'll be able to get those over to you. Or if you have some Spanish-speaking staff that you want to run through the technician training, give us a heads up and we can figure out the best way to make that happen for you.
So that concludes our webinar today. Thanks to everyone for attending. We have our phone numbers here and the email addresses for the program. Here's kind of a snapshot of the lot of program staff that you may encounter with the as you connect with the program. We have Eli Caudell, who is the program manager. I'm Mark Jerome. We've also have Bruce Manclark, who does a lot of trainings and inspections for us. We have Kyle Chase up in the Seattle area, and Eric Timon, who is the program coordinator that kind of keeps everything in line and connects all the dots and moving pieces. Once again, I want to thank you for attending, and thank you very much for your time.